Okay, we are recording. Hello, Porkies.
Hello.
Welcome
Welcome.
to episode 5 of Mental Health Uncorked. We are back.
Yes. Back and better than ever.
Yes.
Not.
Right. We want to share with you all what's been happening with us in our personal lives and in correlation to our mental health.
Yeah, we thought that it would be good because sometimes as women of color, as therapists and counselors ourselves, we put on a brave face and we do so much for others, and
Mhm.
sometimes we don't have it all going on, and sometimes we are not super women
Yes.
that are taking over the world. Sometimes we need a little help ourselves and have to do a little check in or a temperature check to make sure
Exactly.
we're okay.
Yes.
So, how are you, my love?
When people ask me, I'm like, oh, I'm good. But really, like this year has just been like a little bit rough for me.
Mhm.
Um,
When you
this
say that, you mean 2021 so far, or like
2021,
say it again?
2021.
Okay. So, these last couple months.
Yeah, this like 3 months has been like rough, just from like different issues, like between like um occupational and like family and things like that.
Mhm.
But it seems to be like getting better and obviously and everything. But it was rough there for a second.
Mhm.
What about
Yeah.
you?
Same here. I felt like I started the first couple days of this year like ready to just take 2021 on,
Mhm.
and I don't know what happened. It's like I just entered into I already was jokingly saying that we were in the twilight zone, but I think I entered into like another like deeper dimension within that, or like a wormhole or something. And
Yeah.
since then, just feel like I am all over the place, which is not really me. Scatterbrain, just cannot kind of just grab life and get control, right?
Mhm.
And so I think probably around mid February, I just succumbed, like I'm stopping. I'm over it. I'm just gonna go with the flow. If stuff gets done, it gets done. If it
Yeah.
happens, it happens. And even towards the end, starting March, I'm like, okay, fresh new month. And
Yes.
so here we are, midway through March, and I'm like, no, this little. Have you ever seen the I can't think of the medication right now, but they had the little cartoon, and it's like a little bubble guy, and he's like bouncing along, and the little cloud is like rain cloud is following him. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel like, regardless of what moves and things I try to make, like if I step to the left, the little cloud above me goes over there with me too.
Hey,
I
the cloud
just
follows
be
you.
running. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. This little cloud won't leave me alone.
Right. And like I knew it was getting bad, like low key when like I told my fiance one day, I was like, every day just sucks. Like when I was going through like the worst of it, like I was like not depressed. Like thankfully I have like the right coping skills to where like I don't let myself get to that point of depression, I feel like, but it could have been really easy for someone who
Mm-hmm.
like maybe lacks the appropriate coping skills, who was in my shoes, to kind of fall into that like slump of like, oh, this just, I'm not going to do anything anymore,
Yeah.
you know? But like, there was a point where I was like, literally, like, I was just, every day would come and it would be like the same thing every day: get up, go to work, come home, cook dinner, go to bed, like whatever. But then stuff was happening in the meantime, like personally and everything was just like overwhelming, like emotionally exhausting. And so
Yeah.
then at some point, I was just like, literally every day for like the past week or two, maybe even more at that point, had just like, it was like an emotional roller coaster, and it just like was up and downs, and like I didn't like really want to like deal with it, I guess.
Yeah. It's so much easier just to ignore it, right? And not have to deal with whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah,
The emotional capacity that it takes to deal with certain things is just exhausting.
exhausting, especially when it's like your loved ones and stuff like that, and like
Mhm. Yeah. And
just
I think I had talked about this before off camera and off the podcast, as far as just how, and I think we mentioned it on the podcast, how we really weren't affected by the pandemic.
mhm,
Um and kind of, but didn't realize that we were being affected this whole entire time to a certain degree, because we were in the trenches, providing counseling to people and
right.
dealing with all their issues. So I think this episode is particularly good for our fellow counselors and therapists, to kind of let them know, like, hey, you might not know that you're being exposed and affected,
Mhm.
but if you're hearing other people's stuff all day, every day, it can be a lot to take on. And so,
Yeah.
like, you have the right coping skills to kind of make sure that you don't fall prey to what you're being exposed to and experiencing.
Yeah, and he sent me something a few weeks ago about counselors. I can find it. It was about counselors in the pandemic and what we like had to deal with as far as like
Mhm.
counseling people with all this stuff going on, but meanwhile we're experiencing it too, and it's like a pandemic. We don't know how to even go through a pandemic ourselves.
Yeah.
So that was like really good that you sent that the other day. Here it goes. It says in 2020, therapists counseled people through a global pandemic, an economic crisis, a politically polarized election, a racial justice movement, chronic uncertainty, anxiety, and depression, with no preparation, no warning, or special training, all while they went through the same things themselves.
Whoever wrote that, like, kudos to you. You are the Corky of the day, honorary, like, hands down.
Right.
Like, so on point. And it's easy to forget. I mean, some of this stuff is just, it's not even a whole year out. Like, when
Mm,
you, like, the political unrest, I'm like, okay, yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of Breonna Taylor, and so, like, and so we're having that was like the pre to everything, right? Because
right.
right back her comes, George Floyd, and like what that sparked,
Hmm.
right? And for some of those things, we're no closer to a solution, a verdict.
Right.
Um, so people are still in the thick of it, right? Especially for those people that, these are their family members, their friends, and we're struggling secondhand dealing with this stuff. So just imagine the people that are dealing with it in firsthand.
What I can say about that is that, like, I think in the beginning, how we mentioned how it didn't really affect us too much. It's like we kind of got through it. Like, we were still had enough energy from like maybe like 2019, like good energy and stuff to kind of carry us through that first half of the year and everything. Towards the end, it started getting like annoyed with coronavirus, obviously, and everything, and like just hoping that we could like get our stuff together and get vaccines and have people just like be better already.
Mhm.
But then like this year, like coming up on a year, I was just like, okay, let's like I counsel people every day. And when this comes up every day in discussion, it's like a year of talking about the coronavirus, not just to my friends and family, but to like people who I talk to in counseling. So then
Mhm.
they're like opening up and like just kind of dumping. That's what they do in counseling. They just dump things on you. And so just a year of that has just got to me because I was also working like crazy while going through all the stuff in my personal life. So that combined was just
Yeah.
crazy.
At first it was kind of like an escape for me, like, okay, like, I don't have to deal with my problems, and now there's an abundance of other people that I can, right? And but then after a while, you can only kind of turn your head and with distractions for so long until you realize, oh shoot, my situation is on fire and I need to put my own stuff
Yeah.
out, right? And it's that fine line of being a counselor where you know better and you should be doing better, but you're not actually doing some of the things that you're telling your clients to do,
Yep.
which I am definitely guilty of sometimes. And just this that sheer exhaustion that you're talking about of, okay, we're a year in, right? And so how many more times can I give you a different variety of a coping skill to try, right? How
Mhm.
many more things can we exhaust before we say, okay, like this is just what it is, right? You've tried it, you've given your best effort, and we're just gonna have to just let some of this stuff like be worked out with time,
Yeah.
right? I can feel very defeating sometimes.
Yeah, and then I think people just like having to wear masks for a year. It's like totally a normal thing now, like to leave the house with a mask on, which is like a year ago that would have been like, why are you putting a mask on? Like it's just the things that have changed, I think, in everyone's day-to-day lives. That's like I don't think we're even like we see the change, but it hasn't really like hit some people as far as like process wise. So like, oh yeah, we're wearing masks, that's what we're supposed to be doing, but it's like, well, like this is weird because we didn't do this before. And like when will we ever go back to normal?
Something crazy. So
Hmm?
I was walking around my house the other day. This is how
Uh-huh.
far bad I have gotten. And like out of nowhere, I was like, oh shoot, where's my mask at? I was like, I don't have my mask. And then I had to like really check, like stop for a second, like, you're in your house. It's okay. My mind was just again all over the place. And I realized I didn't have a mask on my face.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even realize like where the environment I was in didn't even cause for me having a mask. Like
Right.
just the anxiety of just making sure you have one at all times, right? So I got masks in my car, in my son's bag, in my purse. Oh man, whenever I'm with someone and they're like, "Oh, I don't have a mask," I'm like, "Why don't you have a mask everywhere?" Like, because in my head, I'm like, "There, you can't have a mask everywhere." Like,
Mhm. I mean, it's hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we have to wear them everywhere. So it's like, don't forget your mask. Like in the beginning, a lot, I would leave my car without the mask on and I would forget to go, I have to go back and grab it.
Oh yeah, those are the funniest memes. Well, I mean, you don't see them as much, but the first, couple months where you see the memes where people are like, you know, walking out the house without the mask or stuff like
Yes.
that. I thought they were hilarious.
'Cause at first, we like, it wasn't so like common or normal, I guess. And so I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta get that mask. Like,
I mean, my son is 2, and he doesn't have like a huge vocabulary, but he has mask, right? And so I wonder if that's not all happened. Would he even know the word mask? Like, and he
right.
recognizes it. He realizes that he needs to put it on when he goes places, and so you know, it's crazy. Like, I pull up somewhere, put my car in park, and my son just starts yelling, "Mask, mask, mask!" Like,
That's the other thing. Like, how is this affecting our kids and stuff? And like, it's kind of weird that they're being born into like this pandemic. Like, he was born in 2019,
night,
but he only
night.
had a year on the earth before he had to deal with coronavirus.
Yeah. So this is his life right now. People walking around wearing masks. Like he don't know no different.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm
crazy.
really praying that this goes away really soon. So my son doesn't think that this is the norm.
Like, life was different before.
Yeah, then it's gonna make me feel really old because it's like the good old times before masks.
Right.
Son, we didn't always wear masks. Like crazy to me.
Yes.
Hopefully this vaccine is what we need. People take it seriously and get it, and we can. Unfortunately, I'm probably not the most optimistic person as far as going back to things how things were. I think some things are just going to forever be changed.
Yeah.
Some for the good, maybe some not necessarily immediately for the good, but like if nothing else, now people are going to wash their hands.
When you think about it, like we did a lot of things like that were not sanitary, like before.
Yeah, yeah. Like I, huh, I'll never forget. This made me think of when I was in the first grade. Have you ever bobbed for apples?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
everyone,
and yes. I'm like, oh my god, we did stuff like that where we all just came behind each other, sticking our mouths into the same the
apple.
water, like
Yeah.
or even like I've had some celebrations right lately where there's cakes involved and like everyone blow I mean the person blowing on the cake and then now we're gonna
Right.
slice on the cake. And so the awkwardness of, okay, do I blow on the cake? Do I grab something and just, fan it? Do we still, is blowing out candles still going to be a thing moving forward? Right.
Yeah. Especially when kids do it and they like get all their spit on the cake and
Oh,
stuff. But
yeah.
before they used to happen and be like, oh, it's cake time. We still gonna eat it. And now I'm like, should we eat this cake?
Like you think twice about certain things like that. So it's just like, okay, some of those things like stopping and pausing and thinking about it, I think that we wouldn't have been doing are going to be great.
Mhm.
But there's going to be some ramifications, I think, even in the most simplest things like financially that some people just may not recover from or
Mhm.
might not do. I mean, the people who have lost loved ones, right? And so yes, we might go back to normal, but
Mhm.
that their person's not coming back once we go back to normal, right? Their loved ones. And so I think just there's some permanent things that we're going to have to deal with for years and years to come, especially us counselors and therapists.
Yes. And as you know, like we both work a lot of hours. I was telling you earlier that when I calculated my hours I worked per week, they were over 60. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, when did this become my life?
I'm not even going to do, I wouldn't, when you said that, I was like, oh, like split second wondered how many hours I do. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to even do that to myself.
Right?
I don't want to know.
Like, I almost was like, is that right? I was adding my like 40-hour job and then like the other ones. And I was like, wait.
I'm actually surprised that it's not more for you.
Well, it's like more like 62, 63.
So here's my question: is that direct face-to-face hours, or are you factored? Because I think sometimes we shortchange ourselves as counselors because we don't give like all the time, like the preparation. If you're having to do research about certain diagnosis or
Right.
documentation, which takes up a large amount of our time, like is
It's-
that factored into the 60 hours, or if you start adding that stuff on, you'll be more.
It'll probably be more because like with my like main job, like I document sometimes like at home because I
Mhm.
just don't have time to do it at work or like it's just gonna be lots. I just would rather do it at home. And then I find myself that like now working at home just a lot more because I got used to doing that with the pandemic. As far as like my main job and then like my other telehealth job. So I don't know, it's just more comfortable, I guess, for me to document at home and like be able to focus. It's just
Mhm.
it's really I like it a lot better. So I end up like my boss said the other day, he's like, did you put in a note at like 1:30? And he's like, is that right? Like in the morning. And I was like, yeah. But like, I love watching TV and I was just like finishing up my work before like the next work week, and it's just like by myself just chucking along every week and then like, enjoying the weekends when they come. And then, but I work on the weekends too, but
Yeah.
when I can.
I love those like my staff. I used to be, they were like, oh my, we cannot get away from you. Like I would send emails. I mean, I knew they weren't gonna check them because they didn't have like phones that they took home or anything like that. But they would come
Uh,
in on and they're like, well, why were you up at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday? Like,
right.
and I'm like, I don't know. That's just how I work. That's how I
You're
roll.
an owl.
Yeah, miss me. Not morning time. You're not gonna see me. But um nighttime, yeah, beware.
Right.
But I shouldn't say that because I am talking about like just being in the thick of it that we have, right? And so one of the things I know about me is okay, I have to get some type of order, right? And so in trying to figure out what I can control, my physical body is something that I control. So actually starting this month, I've got a personal trainer. And
Good.
so I don't think it's gonna feel like self-care at first.
Right.
Not literally worked out since I was pregnant, which the personal trainer thought was funny that I had a trainer while I was pregnant, and that was the last time I trained. But I know, just from what we teach and what we talk about with our clients, that it's necessary to, exercise and move, and it's good for us. So I'm
Yes.
like, okay, let's do that and see if that helps with, the clarity and having more energy. Because when I tell you, I be exhausted for no reason.
I know. You tell me. I'm like, what happened?
I'm like, the only thing I can think of is I went from like 4 cups of coffee a day to like a good 2, but the coffee is not for energy. It's just for like I like sipping on it. So I don't know. I think like what is it? I don't know. I'm gonna get this all wrong. Like a body in motion stays in motion, and the more you're moving around, the more energy you have. I think that's what it is. So like we were just talking about telehealth and working from home, right? And
Right.
so you get really, really laxed. Like I can get up and go to my kitchen and my fridge whenever I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not having to get up and move. And, I literally
You can just kind of do
get up
what you
and walk to
do.
my desk.
Yeah.
And that's me being really good if I actually get up and walk to the desk and not just stay in the bed or go to the couch, right? So I'm trying to be a little bit of a professional, but nonetheless, I'm still not moving around too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So exercising, I'm trying to drink water. I'm
Good.
I am going to start having a real lunch break.
Good.
And my normal stuff like the reading and the journaling, those kind of things. And oh, we were talking about me possibly going to the chiropractor. So
Yes.
those that I'm like, okay, I need to implement either starting them because there's some things I'm not starting at all, or being more, I mean, haven't started, or I need to be more consistent with.
Mm-hmm. I like
So
those ideas.
hopefully I start to see some changes quickly.
Yes, I think that's good. Like, even though it's like March, it's like never too late to get started. Like, doesn't have to be the beginning of the year to get your goals accomplished.
Oh yeah. I don't know. It's so weird because I've never been. I don't want to say this bad, but it just I always tell my clients it just feels worse than it actually is. Like, and I
Mhm.
think that's what it is. Like, it just feels so bad, but it really isn't. If in the grand scheme of things, like I almost feel horrible even complaining. Like even in this conversation now, I know that it's really beneficial to people, but in the back of my head, I'm like, don't come off like a complainer. Like you have nothing to like. You have air in your lungs. You
Right.
have the ability with all your limbs to do whatever you want to, right? And yeah, yeah, about someone recently who does not have that, and
Yeah.
just again the emotional mental capacity to like live through and go through certain things.
Something I tell my clients is when they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so privileged" or something, or I shouldn't be complaining about this. Like, I know it sounds so silly. I'm like, well, you have the right to complain about whatever you want to complain about. Like, you also face struggles as well as anybody else. They may be different, but it's your your struggles. Like, you have the right to say, like, I don't feel good today, or yes, I may have this and that, but I'm still feeling empty or sad. Like, we all
Yeah,
have that capacity, and we should be able to, vent to others without feeling guilty about it or shame.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Cannot argue with that at all.
I'm all about wellness. And so when you're talking about like working out and drinking water and stuff like that, something that I love to do is I love yoga. I haven't done it in a while, but I need to get back into it. Maybe find a studio around here and like just start going to classes again. I do love to get like massages for my self-care. Like I need to start doing that again too. Um, I like going to the nail salon, getting
Oh
my
yeah, that's something I consistently.
when people say like, "What are your hobbies?" I'm like, "Okay, I love to get my nails done. I love to go get massages." Like my hobbies are like self-care things.
They are. That's how I explain it to my clients. They're like, "Well, how do I know if it's self care?" I'm like, "Is it something that you enjoy doing?
Uh-huh.
Like, make your health self care a hobby. Like, I mean, your hobby is self care. Yeah.
I just started doing acupuncture last week, so I think I'm gonna keep doing that every week. But
So
it's
cool.
really cool. I was interested in it, but never really knew too much about it, I guess. And so when I had the chance to do it, I just like did it, and it was like a weird feeling at first with the needles, but eventually you get like so relaxed. It's such a
Yeah.
weird like sensation.
Yeah.
But self care, like I'm all about self care. I need to get better for myself though.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you can't be out here being a superwoman for everyone else and then not doing your self care.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Something I thought about too the other day was like when I got sad about like just in general, I was like, well, I'm in my like mid to late 20s. And I feel like this is a time like I used to like, go out and stuff and do fun things and like go out with my friends and like not wear a mask and just not worry about like getting sick or anything. Like so looking back at old pictures and the other my phone the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember Ryan who did this and did that and I got dressed up and I had makeup on and like I'm like, who am I now?
Oh,
Like
I
I
saw
feel like
you
so
posted
old.
a picture of like, and I think the caption was like super cute about like when we used to go on cruises or something like that.
Oh yeah. I was feeling
Yeah.
nostalgic that day.
So yeah, and so that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, what do you do now? Like, we can't say like, okay, just do this, and soon you'll be able to do that again or whatever. Like, you're literally having to restructure your life, right? The things that you pour into you, the things that you could do before, you might not be able to do still, right?
Mhm.
Or even a revised version of it is just not the same enough to kind of meet that need.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, then you find yourself just like kind of missing your own life at some point. Because then I'm like, well, I'm about to be like not 30 soon, but like soonish enough where I wanted to still like have fun in my 20s. It's like, but then people who are like in their early 20s have the same problem. Like they want to go out and they're 21, 22, and they just turn like, drinking age or whatever. And like they may want to like go live their life too, but they can't. And they're like, they're almost prime, kind of, for 20s, I guess, and having fun.
Oh my god, I feel so old right now. I would say to you that I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised that it really isn't a big difference. If you take care of your body, I think mentally and emotionally, you are a very strong person. You are brilliant. And so for you, I don't think that you're going to feel this big difference
Hmm.
from your 20s and your 30s.
Okay. It just feels like, like a just a jump, like,
Yeah, no, no, no. You really like just wake up and it's just another day.
okay, that makes me feel better about it.
No, I think with everything, well, I shouldn't say with most things, it's what you make of it, right? And so just because you turn 30 does not mean that you have to stop socializing, that you have to stop traveling and going with your friends. If anything, it's like, okay, the more years you have under your belt, like you just get better at doing those things, right? There's some homegirls of mine, like, we don't even need to like do all this kind of pre-planning or like whatever when we go somewhere or do something. Like, we already know everyone has like their roles solidified by now of, okay, who's going to be the turn up person, who's going to be us on track, who's going to be the planner, like all this kind of stuff, right? And so it just gets executed perfectly now at this point, right?
Yeah.
um and like, yes, things have changed, and that's going to be pandemic or not, right? People get older, people's jobs might become more demanding, or where one part of your life you weren't working and another one can't, you are. People get engaged and married, and so now it's just not them, it's them and their partner. People have children. And so I think sometimes, especially over this last year, we have made the pandemic an excuse of why we are either not living to our full capacity or why we are not going to be able to live to our full capacity. Like, all this time has wasted, right? And there's been some people who have been very, very clever at it, right? Like, I was at first like really, really sad for the people who were scheduled to get married at this time, right? Or the graduates or whatever. And so what can be done as far as shifting your perspective to say, okay, this is not the end of the world, right? I might not have experienced this, but that doesn't negate me from experiencing all these other things.
Yeah. And there will be an end in sight at some point, and we won't always be in this like situation that we're in now. And hopefully we'll be able to get back to some kind of normalcy or just like to enjoying life again.
Because you always have a choice, because there are some people who are not, I jokingly say this, who are not living in the pandemic like the rest of us, and it's literally not stopped.
Okay, I'm gonna just start another one. Okay, hold that thought. Don't forget.
Not well.
Okay, they're not living in the pandemic. They have not stopped. Okay.
So, and these people, they're not wearing any masks, right? They're still traveling, they're still hanging out, going to large gatherings. Like they're just still living their life, right? These are, if YOLO was a group of people and like these are the people that are literally YOLOing. Is that something?
I don't even know. Like, is it nowadays?
I mean, probably not. Probably if it was on the decline, it's definitely probably fizzled out now. Um, yeah. So, well, I mean, it just depends. Teenagers, they're still. I think it just depends, really. I'm thinking about one of my teen girls that I talked to yesterday. Um, and some of the things that she told me, I'm like, okay, there's some people clearly out here still living their best lives, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Me, I have started to venture out a little bit more, starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, but there's still some things in places like I'm just not going to do, right?
Right.
And I think it's just, I don't want to say it's to each his own because I think we all have a responsibility to be cautious and safe, right? But at the end of the day, everyone still has a choice. So I can't really come down on people who make a different choice.
Yeah. Everyone's gonna live their own lives right now, but hopefully at the end of the day, like we can get a solution to this issue and continue to live more life.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. So, how do you feel now? Are you still in the thick of it all? Or you feel like you're coming out of it?
I feel like I'm coming out of it as things improve externally.
Mhm.
So like my mood kind of depends on how things are around me sometimes, like what's going on just in life. So as things have been getting better, like I feel like better. I had to like make some boundaries and like figure out things with like life. But I'm like also the weather changed, so it got warmer up here. So I think that's another thing. Like it was just always cold or snowy or rainy sometimes, and like that's just not really fun. So I
Yeah.
think having good warm weather and like the sun out, it's like really nice. I can go on walks and stuff outside without being cold,
Yeah.
and it feels good. How are
Yeah. I
you?
didn't even think about that. Like you, because this is your first like real deal winter up north consistently. I mean, of course, you've gone and visited and stuff, but living there day in and day out.
Yeah, I haven't worn shorts outside since I left Florida in like October. Like every day is a coat kind of day.
That can be a lot.
So yeah, with that too, that's another factor I think that added to like eventually just at first it was fun, like, oh yeah, it's cold. And then after it's cold for like 5 months, you're like, okay.
Enough already. Thank you. See, that's why in my lives of lives, I would like to have like two homes, like the fancy people who have like a summer home somewhere
Hmm.
and for the winter. Like that's what I would love because I do. There's certain times I don't mind like the cold and being all like warm and cozy,
Hmm.
but to live in that, no, ma'am.
Yeah. How have are you getting better with your mental health?
Um, it depends on the day. It really depends, and it some days are better than others, right? Today is a great day.
Hmm.
It's gonna be a wonderful day, and not that the days are not good. It's just my uh just capacity to just be present, right, for myself and for others, and knowing that I don't have to show up as like this great, wonderful person. Like they can just get, hey, you're gonna get me a little bit more raggedy today, but this is my best today.
Yeah.
On those especially on those days, those couple of days a week where I'm like ridiculous with my scheduling
Yes.
days, right? And so I can't, like, I know exactly what it is. And so I try to make an effort to, like, okay, I'm just going to push through it, or the days before or the days after, do even more self care to compensate for
Mhm.
those couple of days where it's just chaotic
Mhm.
and and now that I kind of got a handle on that, it has been better. I don't want to make it seem like it's not better. So it has been better. I
Yeah.
think my environment is major, because I have a lot of OCD characteristics. So when my environment is chaotic and not organized, then I start to feel like I'm chaotic and organized. So
Yes.
hoping once my environment changes a little bit,
Mhm.
like naturally boost up, like how like it's starting to get warm for you and then you just naturally starting to feel better. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be like the last thing for me to like just push me over the edge to just start coasting for the rest of the year.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Cathartic.
Yeah, it was. Like now I don't have to go pay for a therapy session. I'm trying to think like, what do I need to get off my chest right now?
She's got therapy.
Had my therapy session. It went really great. It's so funny because it's like it really does feel like that when you talk to someone who especially when someone who gets it and understands.
Yes.
Icing on the cake if they really are a therapist, and then
Right?
top when they are your friend too, because then you just get all of the goodness at once.
Exactly. I think we get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah. So like now I'm like, oh, I see why people call. Chit chat.
Right. They like talking to us.
Oh, it's not half bad. Yeah, so I think in closing, like if you are a therapist, please like find you a friend to talk to.
Mhm.
Get on track with your coping skills, do an assessment. I think you and I both had to like just take a quick pause and be like, okay, what's going on? And okay, what do we need to do? Like what we need to switch out, what do we need to increase as far as coping skills, what we need to eliminate. You talked
Mhm.
about what boundaries do I need to put in place, and then from there kind of start going again. But I think there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, hold on, I need a quick pause, right?
Yeah.
um, and taking it and knowing that it's okay, calling up a friend that you trust and being like, hey, I'm not okay. If you don't have someone like that, reaching out to maybe a fellow coworker or actually going and finding a therapist, right? Somewhere. I'm a firm believer on a therapist having therapists on like
Mhm.
retainer at the very least. Like you might have not go every week or every month or whatever, but when life happens you have someone that you can like, okay, let me go ahead and book this session real quick because I'm not okay.
Yes. And you know when you need help and you seek it.
Yes, yes, so it was nice.
Yes. And thank you for listening as usual, Corkies. We appreciate and love you guys.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. All right. That was like 37 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. But
Yeah,
I do have to go to do this other BetterHelp call.
okay.
Oh, hold on. Let me.